I'm not able to hear Prabhuji.
Prabhu, you're not audible.
Okay, the mic was off. Not a big technical glitch. Yeah, it's coming. So I believe I'll be audible now. So Hare Krishna. So thank you all for joining in. आप सभी को 2023 की हार्दिक बधाइयाँ जिस रूप में भी कहना चाहें. So just taking a look at who all are present here. I hope all of you remember the policies of Bhakti Shastri batch. Camera is compulsory or else you get marked absent, right? Something like that. We are meeting after a year's time, so even I forgot what are the policies here. So, okay, we'll discuss that later on. I'll start right away. Oh, bandwidth is low. Something's going on with the internet. All right, so we'll start our today's discussion. We're going to read from 7th chapter, verse number 13 onwards. Before that, let's offer prayers together and then we'll take it. Just one quick second. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatai Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gotase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishyavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone for this Bhagavad Gita session. We're going to resume our discussion from chapter number 7 and verse number 12 onwards. Before I just start with the program, is my audio and video all okay for all of you? Just give me a quick thumbs up.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah.
Okay, it's a little strange coming from me. Fine, no problem. We'll continue with it. So, Hare Krishna. Presentation. Yes. So today's discussion is focused around the second part. We intend to cover from verse number 13 to 30 of chapter 7. Chapter 7, titled as Knowledge of the Absolute. And the acronym for this chapter, as we had discussed before, is titled as HEAD. So, head. So, we have discussed the first 12 verses. I'll do a very quick recap of it and then we'll proceed ahead with the verses of discussion for today. H refers to hearing. Verse number 1 to 3, Lord Shri Krishna opens the 7th chapter by telling Arjuna, Arjuna tat shanu, hear from me. And in this discussion, we had spoken about the importance of hearing, the means of acquiring knowledge, why to hear, what to hear, like that. So, in essence, through this discussion on the first 3 verses, Lord Shri Krishna conveys the message that acquiring knowledge becomes very easy if we hear it from the right authority. In other words, hearing from the authority, right authority, opens up new opportunities to experience the truth, absolute truth, directly. So that's the point here. Krishna opens up this chapter by stressing on the need to hear from spiritual sources for the purpose of understanding the universal realities, like that. Then the second section is from verse number 4 to 12. After Krishna has emphasized on the need of hearing from the spiritual sources, because of limited sense perception, we cannot really research out the absolute truth. We need to hear about the absolute truth. So Arjuna got a question in his mind, and he pondered. He thought, my dear Lord, I'm willing to accept you, or I'm totally fine to hear from you and accept the universal truth. But the question arises, there are many people out in the world who would still argue and say, if you show me God, then I'll believe. You all agree with that? They're fine. They may hear you once in a while, but again they emphasize, well, that's all okay. You show me God, then I'll believe you. So then Lord Shri Krishna begins to answer this concept, how to see God everywhere, from verse number 4 to 12. That's the subject matter. So here in these 12 verses, some of the key lessons that we discussed or that are highlighted by Srila Prabhupada's purpose and Lord Shri Krishna's instruction here. For first is Lord and Jiva are never equal. So those of you sitting here, you will not get to see the presentation, right? You will not really, because I'm going to come to the book in a short while. Just if you find Vishwakar, find in the Zoom ID, so you can sign in the Zoom ID and see it together, or have a one laptop, common laptop here. So first, Lord and Jiva are never equal. So in this chapter, Lord Shri Krishna, of course, he has discussed that in the 4th chapter also, but here Lord Shri Krishna introduces his 2 energies. One is the superior energy, second is inferior energy, where Krishna says, Jivatma is my superior energy, whereas this material world is my inferior energy. So we are the energies of the Lord, like this. Now, because we are the energy of the Lord, then it means everything has to be utilized in the service of the Lord. For example, a company gives you a smartphone. It is meant to be used for the purpose of the company, not meant to be used for the personal usage. So the second lesson which we learned here was engage Lord's material energy in his service, like that. And to establish the relationship between him, between the living entities, and between his energy, material energy, Lord Shri Krishna gives various examples from verse number 8 to 11, stressing the point that how is the essence and cause of everything. I am the taste of the water. I am the light of the sun. I am the ability in man. Like that, Lord Shri Krishna speaks about. In essence, through this series of verses, Lord Shri Krishna says, through the eyes of knowledge, one can see, one can perceive the presence of Lord everywhere. Unseen is proven by the seen. A simple example we have discussed many times is about the father, is about the son who returns home from the school. And if he sees the father's car key on the dining table, although he has not seen the father, but when he sees the father's car key, who he would remember immediately? Father. Because he sees with the eyes of knowledge, he knows this car key belongs to my father. If the car key is here, my father should be around. That's the point of discussion here. So That's the relationship which is largely highlighted in this series of verses. Who is Jiva? Energy of Lord. Who is Prakriti? Energy of Lord. What is the relationship between Jiva and Prakriti? Jiva is the super energy and Prakriti is the inferior energy. Then in the verses 8 to 12, we had another series of lessons that we learned, where about seeing Krishna everywhere. So first thing, Krishna is the maintainer and the essential principle of everything. We should use Lord given gifts in the service of the Lord, but not for selfish purposes. Example of a smartphone again. And then by this knowledge, we can gain freedom from envy. Now, what it means, we can gain freedom from envy because we understand now nothing belongs to us, everything belongs to the Lord. Therefore, the first verse of Ishopanishad becomes practical. Ishavasim idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagattena tiktena vunjita magrada kasya siddhanam. So do not envy. Be happy, be content with whatever your quota, assigned quota. Do not look at others' quota and say, oh, why I have got lost? Why I have got less? Why? Ishavasim idam sarvam. Everything belongs to Ishvara. So when we understand who is the controller, who is the enjoyer, who is the proprietor, then we do not envy. Envy arises when we compete to become the controller and enjoyer. So by this knowledge, one can gain freedom from envy. That's the point. So this was a discussion so far. And after this, Arjuna pondered, oh ho, so now you have told me, my dear Lord, that how I can see you everywhere. But the question arises, if you're present everywhere, then why is there still a wholesale denial of your existence? You just spoke that you are, you're present all over the creation, and every single thing, your presence can be perceived. But why there is a wholesale denial of your existence? So now comes the third section, which is the subject matter for today's discussion, is the verse number 13 onwards, where Lord Shri Krishna will speak about it. The third section is accept or reject, verse number 13 to verse number 19. So if Krishna is present everywhere, then why there's a wholesale denial? So Lord Shri Krishna makes 2 points here in this series of verses from 13 to 19. First, he says, I am a magician who has bewildered you by my magic spell. So I'm the best of the magician who has bewildered everyone by his magic spell, because of which, although I'm standing in front of you, you cannot see me. For example, there was a very famous magician back in America, around 60s or 70s. An example comes, there is a, Statue of Liberty in New York. So it's a huge tower. It's a statue of great pride for the Americans. And this magician, he made an announcement that I'm going to make the Statue of Liberty disappear. And imagine if that's a promotion for your event. It's just like somebody announces, we have Subhash Chandra Bose, right? Not Subhash Chandra Bose. What is that? Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's statue in Gujarat. And some magician announces, on this and this date, I'm going to make the statue disappear. There's going to be a lot of attrition for that particular, a lot of talk about this particular, promotion. And the day came, the time came, and the curtains were raised. The Statue of Liberty was covered from 360 degrees. Nobody could see. And this man standing on the ground waved his stick, and he said, Zub! The moment he lowered his stick down, the curtains were dropped. And lo and behold, Statue of Liberty disappeared. Statue of Liberty disappeared. There was such a hue and cry. Oh, what happened? Where is the Statue of Liberty? People were crying. This man stole our liberty. Statue of Liberty, which is a sign of their freedom, independence. There was so much hue and cry. The police came to arrest him. Hey, what did you do with our Statue of Liberty? And then suddenly he said, okay, wait, it has not gone anywhere. And again, the curtains were raised. And again, he did some, trick. And when the curtains were dropped, Statue of Liberty was there. So interestingly, somebody had asked him many years later on, what did you actually do? He said, I did nothing. Statue of Liberty was there. That was a whole magic trick. So even common men born in this world can put a magic spell by which you cannot see what ought to be seen. Now imagine if a Krishna had to put a magic spell, what all can be accomplished? And that's a discussion of this series of verses that we have. Krishna's magic spell here. Okay, let's take a look. So, Tribhirgunamair bhavir ebihi sarvam idam jagat. This is 13th verse of 7th chapter. Mohitam nabhijanati mamebhya paramavyayam. Somebody would like to read the translation. Hi Nam Prabhu, you can manage that please. Mute, unmute function. Hare Krishna. Is anyone doing that?
Prabhuji, so I am not the co-host, so I don't
Oh,
have
okay.
control.
Yeah, the host has forgotten the rules of the program. Wait a second. Hi Nam Prabhu, you should be the co-host by now.
Okay. Anjana Mataji, please.
Shall I
Hare
read from the,
Yes.
shall I read from the book, Prabhuji?
Wherever. Just read the 13th verse. That's good enough.
Purport only.
Translation.
Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible.
Yes. So Krishna says, why I'm not visible to people? Because I have put a magic spell, and that magic spell is called as modes of mental nature. In second chapter, Lord Shri Krishna says the purpose of Vedic knowledge is to understand or is to rise over the modes of mental nature. What is that verse? Second chapter. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna. Nidando Nitvasto, like that. Yoga Shema Maha. What is it? Something like that. 1 second. Second chapter. 43 verse, if I'm correct, 46 verse. Nirdvando nitya sattvasto niryoga shema atmava. The whole purpose of Vedic knowledge is to educate us about this magic spell known as modes of mental nature and to make us rise above it. The whole purpose of Vedic knowledge is to dispel this magic spell known as modes of mental nature. So that's the point is being mentioned here. Let's read the second paragraph of the purport. Every living entity. If you have it, Mother, go ahead.
Every living entity under the influence of material nature has a particular type of body and a particular type of psychological and biological activities accordingly. There are four classes of men functioning in the three material modes of nature. Those who are purely in the mode of goodness are called Brahmanas. Those who are purely in the mode of passion are called Kshatriyas. Those who are in the modes of both passion and ignorance are called Vaishyas. Those who are completely in ignorance are called Sudras. And those who are less than that are animals or animal life. However, these designations are not permanent. I may be either a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or whatever. In any case, this life is temporary. But although life is temporary and we do not know what we are going to be in the next life, by the spell of this illusory energy, we consider ourselves in terms of this bodily conception of life. And we thus think that we are American, Indian, Russian, or Brahmana, Hindu, Muslim, etc.
All right. So the point being mentioned here is when we come to this world, we get conditioned by the material nature. And because of that, we forget our real identity. It's just similar like when a person is sent to prison house, his clothes are changed. Similarly, we get covered over by the modes of material nature. Now the question arises, oh really, does it mean when Krishna appears and the Lord appears in this world, he also gets conditioned by the modes of material nature? No, that doesn't happen. Therefore, he's said to be Nirgunasya. Nirgunasya means not that he is without gunas. Nirgunasya means without modes of material nature. He does not have the conditioned modes or conditioned activities like that. So now the question comes, well, obvious question that Arjuna would have in his mind. Oh, my dear Lord, we have all been put under this magic spell. How can we get rid of this magic spell? That's the discussion of the next verse. Okay, a question for all of you before we go ahead. If we are spiritual energy, which is superior to matter, how do we get covered by Maya or material energy? Any quick thoughts? We are spiritual, we are superior energy. So how this superior energy has got covered over by inferior energy? Is a one word answer for it. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to toggle between the screens, so I don't know who has raised your heads. There are so many hands are up. Okay. How do I say? Okay, Chaitanya Bhagwan Prabhu. Let's go ahead and hear from you. Unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, because we identify ourselves with our body, not our spirit.
Well, correct. That happens after coming here. Yes, Desh Deepak, Mother Jyoti's writing is desires. It all begins with that. And of course, avidya, we are engulfed by the avidya, correct? Because of that. Desire is the root cause of it. We already discussed in the 5th chapter in verse number 11, 12, 13th or 12, 13, 14, desire management. What we all need to do is change our desires. All right. Let's move ahead on the discussion here. Oh, where am I? Yes, over here. Okay, so how do we overcome this magic spell? Krishna says, text number 14. Devi ish gunamai mama maya duratyaya mamiva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Devi hi ish gunamai. Srila Prabhupada translates this word Devi as transcendental. Something just an additional kind of an information here. Please go to chapter number 9, verse number 13. We're just a little bit looking at the word Devi here. So in text number 13, the discussion is going on about Mahatmas. So text number 13 of 9th chapter says, Mahatmanas tumam partha devim prakritim ashritaha. Those who are Mahatmas, those are great devotees, they take shelter of Devi. Now, Devi takes shelter. The devotees take shelter of Devi. And text number 14 in 7th chapter said, Devi esha gunamai mamamaya duratyaha. This material energy which is known as Devi, this my divine energy, gunamai, matlab material energy, mamamaya duratya is very difficult to overcome. So is Krishna saying Mahatmas take shelter of my material energy or something else? Well, you all know in 9th chapter, verse number 13, when Krishna says, Daivam prakritim ashritaha, the word Devi refers to superior, your internal energy of the Lord, not the external energy of the Lord. So here comes a very important point of context. The same word can be used with a different meaning because the context is different. Why context is different? If you go to 9th chapter, verse number 12, there, Prakriti or inferior energy, extra energy has already been discussed differently in the previous verse. 9.12, Moghasha Moga Karmano Moga Jnana Vichetasaha Rakshashim Ashram Chaiva Prakriti Mohinam Ashritaha. So they take shelter of Prakriti. So when in the next verse, Krishna is not speaking about Prakriti, but Krishna is speaking about the internal energy. So to understand scriptures, we need to have a context. Now, why here Devi in 7.14 refers to the external energy? Because Krishna in 7.13 already spoke about her. Is it making sense? So you can't just pick a word, and you will find many foolish wranglers who want to find fault with Vedic knowledge. They'll pick a word and they say, see, this is what it is said. It is always contextual. Sanskrit vocabulary is not so easy. It has numerous meanings. Every single word would have many meanings like that. Okay. So this Devi Eshu Gunamai, this is, Devi Eshu Gunamai, this is what consists of 3 modes of material nature. Mama Maya Duratyaya. This is my energy. Duratyaya is very difficult to overcome. Mameva Prapadyante, but how do you overcome it? Prapadyante means surrender. Ma means unto me. Mameva, very interestingly. Mameva, certainly only me. Not Brahma, not Shiva, not Durga, not Parvati. And on this, Baldev Vidyabhushan Vishnu Thakur gives a very elaborate commentary quoting various verses that how Krishna says, what it means by only me, where Brahma and Shiva, when their followers would ask them for a blessing, they would also say, we cannot give you liberation. We cannot set you free from the modes of material nature. It is only the prerogative of Vishnu. So when Krishna says, Maam eva ya prapadyante, it is only possible by taking shelter of Lord Shri Krishna. Prapadyanti means surrender. Mayam etam taranti te. Taranti means to deliver. Mayam, from this material energy, I shall deliver you to whom? Who takes my shelter, like that. Please read the first few lines of the purport. Mother Ratimanjri, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Purport of 7.14.
Yes. First few lines.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of his energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with material energy, their original superior power is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual natures, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. Consequently, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, which the living entity cannot overcome. Inferior material energy is defined herein as divine nature due to its divine connection and movement by the divine will.
Hare Krishna. So I hope this is clear why the inferior energy is being addressed as divine. So this is Srila Prabhupada defines the meaning of word Devim. I'll just give you an alternate meaning, whatever Acharyas explain. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan gives another very interesting meaning of the word Daivim. So he says Daivi, not Daivim. Daivim is in 9.13. Here it is mentioned Daivi. He says the word Daivi, actually Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur talks about it. Baldev Vidyabhushan gives a little different meaning. He says the word Devi, I'm quoting Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. He says the word Devi comes from word Deva. Now, who are Devas? For whom Deva refers to those who sport in sense enjoyment. You know, they have a lot of sense enjoyment available facility. So in other words, Devi Eshugunamai. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur writes, so therefore Daiva becomes Daivi. It refers to a living entity, which means which gives pleasure to the living entity. In other words, which is meant to give a pleasure, but it ends up giving bewilderment. So the word Daivi refers to that which bewilders living entity, because sense pleasure is ultimately bewilderment. It binds us to this world. So that is how we explain Daivi word coming from Daiva. Our Baldev Vidyabhushan says, this very astonishing, extraordinary Maya, Devi, belongs to me, the Lord of all things, the creator of unlimited universes, which means Krishna. Maya is called astonishing because it is an instrument in the creation of the astonishing, variegated, countless universes. And this is being described in Shruti, in Shweta Ashtara Upanishad. It is said, Mayam tu prakritim vidyan, Mayinam tu Maheshwaram. One should know Prakriti of Maya and its Lord, the great Lord. We should know both of them. Now, Prabhupada concludes this purport by stressing on the word Mam Eva. If you look at the end of purport, only me. So Prabhupada gives a translation here. I'll give those verses for your further reading and references. So there is a verse that comes in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, chapter number 51, verse number 20, which is said, Varam Vrishniva Bhadram te rate kaivalyam adyanaha eka evashwarastasya bhagavan Vishnu avyaha. All good fortune to you. Devatas are speaking to Muchukunda. So, Devata said, please ask us for a benediction. So they say, all good fortune to you. Please choose a benediction from us. Devas are telling to Muchukunda, ask for anything but liberation. Since only the infallible Bhagavan Vishnu Avyaha, infallible Avyam, Bhagavan Vishnu is Supreme Lord, only Supreme Lord can bestow liberation, not anyone else. Similarly, in Padma Purana, Lord Shiva is speaking to Ghanta Karna and he says, Mukti Pradata Sarvesham Vishnur Evana Samshaya. Very simple Sanskrit. Padma Purana is easy for that reference purpose at least. So Mukti Pradata Sarvesham. Who awards Mukti? Vishnur Eva na Samshaya. Without a doubt, only Vishnu can award liberation. Nobody else. So this is Lord Shiva saying. All right. So that's the discussion so far. Where are we? Yes, we are here. Going back to the presentation. Only Krishna can award liberation. So, take my shelter, Mam Eva. Difficult by our endeavor, but easily done by surrendering to Krishna. That is what we discussed. We quoted some references. And freedom from the modes is proportional to our surrender. That Krishna speaks in the 4th chapter. What is that verse? Mam eva prapadante.
Ye tamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamya.
Yeah, correct. That's the verse. So I'm sorry, just skipped through my head. So freedom from the modes is proportional to the surrender. So let me give you a common day example to help you understand that how Lord, who is the master of Prakriti, can help us relief or can get us relief from this extra energy. One senior leader and devotee and Vaishnava was making this an example. He said, I used to live in Germany. He is a German native. And as a young boy, during summer vacations, I would help sell newspaper. So I was a newspaper boy. I'll go to the outlet, pick up the newspapers, and I'll go to the doors and throw it. So he said, I would ride my bicycle and go outside the home and throw the newspaper inside the house. So in this particular house, generally the culture was, if it is on the first floor, second floor, then you throw it. If it is on the ground floor, then you go open the main gate or main door and keep it on the table in the garden in front. He said one particular house I could not do so because there was a big dog, and on the board it was written, beware of dog. So if ever I will go close to the door, the dog will begin to bark. So I was always scared, and I'll always throw the newspaper. So the owner of this house was stressing, no, don't throw the newspaper. You throw the newspaper, sometimes it falls in the garden, which is wet, the newspaper gets spoiled, etc., etc. So I will only pay you if you come and put it onto my table, which is right outside the house in the garden. So one day, the boy, when this devotee as a young boy, when he went there, he looked through the door and he saw there was no dog. He slowly opened the door, peeked inside, and he saw the dog was sleeping and he was tied. His neck was tied with a noose. So he was confident today that I can peacefully go and carry the newspaper. He opened the door, he slowly walked, and a few distance meters away, there was a table on which he kept the newspaper. And he was like, finally today, after long days, I've accomplished my mission. And the moment he turned around, the dog was there, the huge dog, fully woken up. And this saliva was dripping from his mouth and the big eyes. It was literally the height of this young boy. And he was so shocked. And he saw the noose was actually tied to his neck, but not to the pole. So all the time he was free. And there is this face-off between the dog and this young boy. What to do? Now the boy cannot fight with this huge dog. And he began to run at his might. And the dog began to chase. And he just by the time he was about to reach to the door, the dog was about to pounce at him and really, break his bones. The moment the dog was about to pounce at him, suddenly the master came. He said, Tommy, keep quiet. Oh, karte hue, the Tommy put his tail between his hind legs and sat there. And the devotee was making a point. Later in my life, when I started reading Bhagavad Gita and came to this chapter, when I was reading this 14th verse of Bhagavad Gita, I realized, you know what? That dog was to me like Maya. How much ever I try, I could not overcome it. But the moment the master came, the master said, Tommy, keep quiet. Immediately the dog became quiet. So this Maya is beyond our control, like the dog. But if Krishna tells to the external energy, enough is enough, then the external energy will not trouble us. And he said at that particular day, the master chastised the dog. The dog understood, I am not a threat to the family. And henceforward, I was able to go and put the newspaper in the house. Good example. You'll remember it more than the shlokas that I said before, I guess. All right. Okay. So that's the thing about this thing. Okay. So now, text number 15 to 19. So Arjuna began to ponder and he thought, my dear Lord, we all are bewildered. We cannot see you because of Maya. And if we surrender unto you, then we can get liberation. We can get freed from this Maya. So question comes, if those who surrender to you attain liberation, then why there are still learned people who do not surrender to you? How many of you agree is a valid question, right? You said we all are covered over by Maya because of which we are not able to see you. But if we surrender to you, we'll be able to go beyond this magic spell and will attain liberation. So if by surrendering you, we can attain liberation, why there still are so many people who will not surrender unto you? Any clues from any of you? Any idea? We recently had a book distribution, right? All of you would have taken part in book distribution. At least we gave you a vacation for that. You come across all kinds of people. Some people up front will tell you, oh, no, I am an atheist, hardcore atheist. Somebody said, no, Swamiji, I cannot touch the book. I just said non-veg. Some people, even you don't speak anything, the person will come and say how much it is, and they'll take a book and walk away. And you wonder what happened. I didn't even tell him. And some person you a little bit tell him, and then he'll negotiate for the price. No, Swamiji, this 180 is too expensive. Can you give 170 rupees? Then negotiate. And finally, they take a book. You come across all different kinds of people. So if Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita, you surrender to me, you get moksha, then why there are so many people in this world still would not surrender? And the Krishna answers now for that. That's a discussion. Yeah, deleted by the three modes is done. But what happens? That's the subject matter. Correct. There's more to the details to it. So that is being described in the 15th verse. Who are these people? So let's take a look. There are 4 kinds of miscreants who do not surrender to Krishna. That is being described in verse number 15. I don't have verse here, so we'll recite the verse. Namam dushkrita no mudha. Now, kriti means good work. Kriti, pious work you can call it. Dushkriti means impious. So, namam dushkrita no mudha. So, unto me, who does not come to me, who is mudha, foolish person. So, dushkriti means sinful person. So, there are sinful people who do not come to me. All right. So, the discussion here would be, my dear Lord, who comes to you, who does not come to you? So, those who are sinful, they do not come to me. Those who are pious, they come to me. All right. Now, who are sinful people? First, who is mudha, foolish. Prapadyante means surrender. Naradama, the lowest of all mankind. Nama dushkrita no mudha prapadyante naradama. Maya parat jnana. Maya ahaparat jnana. Ahaparat means aparan. Jnana, whose intelligence has been stolen. By whom? Maya. Whose intelligence has been stolen by external energy. That's the third category. And asuram bhavam ashrita. And the fourth category of person is of asuric nature, ashritaha. Such people never take my shelter. This is what Lord Shri Krishna is explaining here. Let's take a look at it. It's a beautiful purport. Not sure if I can really take it all entirely, but in the purport, in the third or the fourth line, Prabhupada makes a point, which I was making. At this point, a question arises. How is it that educated philosophers, scientists, businessmen, administrators, and all the leaders of ordinary man do not surrender to the lotus feet of Shri Krishna, the all-powerful person God? This verse answers that question. Many times people wonder why everyone is not taking shelter of Krishna. Because they are sinful people. And there are 4 categories of people described here like that. Next paragraph. This is very interesting. Let's read the next 2 paragraphs. Who would like to read it? Let's have it that way. Okay. Mother Leela Nandini, go ahead. I just hope you will be audible enough, okay? Unmute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat
Good
Pranam.
enough. Yes, read the next 2 paragraphs.
The Gita answers this question very frankly. Those really learned leaders of society like Brahma, Shiva, Kapila, the Kumaras, Manu, Vyasa, Devala, Ashita, Janaka, Prahlada, Bali, and later on Madhavacharya, Ramanujacharya, Sri Chaitanya, and many others, who are faithful philosophers, politicians, educators, scientists, etc., surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Person, the all-powerful authority. Those who are not actually philosophers, scientists, educators, administrators, etc., but who pose themselves as such for material gain, do not accept the plan or path of the Supreme Lord. They have no idea of God. They simply manufacture their own worldly plans and consequently complicate the problems of material existence in their vain attempts to solve them. Because material energy, nature, is so powerful, it can resist the unauthorized plans of the atheists and baffle the knowledge of planning commissions. The atheistic plan makers are described herein by the word dushkritina or miscreants. Kriti means one who has performed meritorious work. The atheist plan maker is sometimes very intelligent and meritorious also, because any gigantic plan, good or bad, must take intelligence to execute. But because the atheist brain is improperly utilized in opposing the plan of the Supreme Lord, the atheistic plan maker is called dushkriti, which indicates that his intelligence and efforts are misdirected.
Hare Krishna. So in the next paragraph, Prabhupada speaks about it, and how much ever these atheistic plan makers or Dushkritana category of people, they may want to make an attempt to enjoy this world. At the end of the day, all their plans are baffled by the Lord's will. And this particular point Prabhupada makes here also, but makes elaborately in the second canto, the seventh chapter, if I'm correct. Various incarnations are being discussed there. Yes, in the seventh chapter, where when Hiranyakashipu's, when Nrsimhadeva's appearance is mentioned there briefly. So there Prabhupada mentions. Here Prabhupada also mentions in the middle of the purport briefly. He says in the next paragraph, under illusion, the modes of passion and ignorance, all his plans are baffled, as in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, whose plans were smashed to dust, although they were both materially learned as scientists, philosophers, administrators, and educators. Very interesting, very profound statement Prabhupada is writing here. You know, these Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, they were not uneducated, illiterate people. They were highly learned. They were millions of times more learned in Vedic knowledge than you and I are. I mean, theoretically, in that sense, they were so learned, yet they would not surrender. So the question of this bhakti or surrender, it does not depend on your, your intellectual ability, either to comprehend or either to memorize. Neither it depends on your material status. Oh, so many successful people, look at the Hollywood, Bollywood star. If they're not doing bhakti, it means bhakti is not in actually effect. No, it's not like that. That's what mentioned. So they wanted to exploit this world. They tried their best, but all their plans were baffled at the end of the day. Prabhupada writes, was smashed to dust. Very fantastic thing. And then there's a discussion of 4 categories of people. I would highly recommend you to read this purport, brilliant purport. We'll have a brief discussion on this. I'll give you quick examples from Prabhupada's purpose here. So 4 kinds of miscreants do not surrender. First is Mudaha. Muda refers to a grossly foolish, hard-working asses. Now, I don't know if this is a credit to an ass or is a disgrace to an ass. To compare human beings with them, that I would let you decide for yourself. But asses do get some acknowledgement in Vedic scriptures. Special category of human beings are given the privilege to be called as an ass, or a disgrace for an ass, that humans have been compared to them, whatever way, like that. So, for example, okay, let me just make some point. So, what is this? Why this is called as ass here? Prabhupada in the next paragraph. You can take in your book. No need to shuffle through the slide here. Prabhupada says, who are mudas? They are grossly foolish, hard-working beasts of burden, which means they want to enjoy the fruits of their labor by themselves and do not want to part with them for the Supreme. This is the position of the foolish footy worker who does not know for whom he should work. He does not know that karma is meant for yajna. In other words, why they're called as? Because they work hard, they work very hard day and night for some temporary pleasure which they never get. Now, why they compare to an ass? Because ass carries so much load at his back whole day just to get a dry carrot at the end of the day. That's why such a hardworking people are compared to us. They do not know for whom to work, whom to serve like that. They do not understand, Prabhupada makes another point, they do not understand for the material gain they're working so hard is ultimately perishable, destructible. Whatever they do, they really cannot enjoy the fruits of their labor. They waste such a precious human form of life. And unfortunately, they never surrender to the Supreme Master of all Master. Nor do they even take out time to hear about him. This is the category of people who would often say, oh, time nahi hai hum par. They're so busy. Similarly, the foolish worker will untiringly continue to hear of the sense-enjoyable tidings of the flickering mundane world, but will have very little time to hear about the eternal living force that moves the material world like that. To give you an example of one such Buddha, it's a brilliant example actually. So one scholar came to meet Srila Prabhupada and he challenged Prabhupada. He said, Swamiji, in this verse, no Krishna is mentioned, but you're talking about Krishna. Why do you write about Krishna? In this verse, there is only reference to yoga. Then why do you write Bhakti Yoga? Srila Prabhupada nodded. All right. What else? What else you want to say? There is no reference to surrender to Krishna in this verse, but why do you say surrender to Krishna? And like this gentleman went on finding fault with Srila Prabhupada Bhagavad Gita commentary for 1 hour. After that, he left. And the devotees were really getting upset. The devotee asked Prabhupada when this man, he left, he said, Prabhupada, why did you not answer him? Why did you just nod your head? Okay, what next, what next? Prabhupada said, see, this rascal did 1 hour of Hare Krishna chanting. By again and again saying, see, there is no Krishna like this. So he said this way he was getting purified. Next time when he comes, we will chastise him. He will be ready to receive the chastisement. I really love this, strategic way of purifying people. Anyways, this is an example of dealing with mudhas. Anyway, let's move forward. The second category are Naradhama. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, there are 8.4 million species, and the civilized human beings are those who have regulative principles of social, political, and religious life. So who are Naradhamas? Nara, Adhamaha, lowest. This is the lowest mankind, which means to live an uncivilized life. And Prabhupada, in the purport, civilized human beings are those who have a regulative principles of social, political, and religious life, like that. Those who do not have that sense, Prabhupada says, can be considered to be Naradhamas, like that. Yeah, so in essence, in just Naradhama means those who do not follow any regulative principles. Largely a Tamaguni people, or you can call the modern day. What's happening on the name of living a life to the fullest, the kind of exploitation, abuse individuals are exposing themselves to drugs, alcohol, various kinds of intoxications, and illicit relationship, etc., etc. There's no civility left. That's the point of Naradhama, who do not follow any regulative principles. The third category of people who do not surrender, the sinful people who do not surrender, are Maya Ahaparat Jnana, whose intelligence has been stolen by Maya. This refers to the intellectual class. They're scholarly people, they're great philosophers, poets, scientists, whatnot, academicians, but they're misled. Their facility of intelligence, which is given to them by the Lord, are not being used in, really asking of fundamental questions, inquiring about the absolute truth. Rather, all the intellectual facility or faculty has been used to disown the Lord, to discredit the Lord, and to take the whole credit for oneself, saying that I have discovered this, I have invented this, like that. And this is the category of people who actually take the leadership roles around, and they are the one who decide and define policies for the masses, what should be taught in the school, what should be the policies for civilized life, or whatever the civilization we want to call it today. So these are the categories of people actually called as Maya Aparat Jnana. They are intellectuals, but unfortunately they're misusing that facility. And the fourth category of person is Asuram bhavam ashritaha. Asuram bhavam ashrita, this refers to demonic nature, which means this is the category of person who are straight. They're totally envious of the Lord. You can call them hardcore atheists. Whatever argument, whatever evidence you want to give it to them, they would just not listen to it. So envious of God. What did it mean by envious of God? Three things. First, they proclaim themselves to be God. So any guru, any teacher, anyone says I am God, he is nothing but envious of God. He is asuram bhavam ashrita. This is from the Prabhupada. Second point, who disregard the presence of God, said to be envious of the Lord. Third, who claim we are the products of chemicals. That's the point. So this is your asuram bhavam ashritaha. Now, Arjuna said, okay, my dear Lord, I understood these are the people who do not worship you. My question next to you is, who worships you? Krishna says, all right, let me tell you. Text number 16. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janaha sukritanvarjunaha artho jigyasu artharthi jnani cha bharata shabha. So 4 categories of people. Chaturvidha bhajante mam. Bhajante, serve me, come to my shelter. Janaha, sukriti. So you see the word dushkriti, sukriti. This is the differentiating factor. Dushkriti and sukriti. Sukriti means pious. Dushkriti means impious. Arjuna. Artho, distressed. Jigyasu, inquisitive. Arthati, desirous of wealth. Jnani, one who really wants to know me. One who knows there's an absolute truth and who really want to discover and inquire about me to establish their relationship. Cha Bharata Shabha. These are the 4 categories of people. So it is not, let me make some disclaimer here so you don't get confused here. It is not that every artho artharthi goes to the shelter of the Lord. But which artho artharthi? One who is of the category of sukriti. Those who are pious people, and when they face challenges in their life, they go and take shelter of the Lord. Now, again, which artho arthati being discussed here? Not those who go take shelter of devatas. This is very specific, huh? Otherwise, we get confused here. So this refers to those. This is actually this artho arthati and jigyasu. This is called as sakama bhakta, desirous. They have the desire and they go to Lord to get it fulfilled. But they only go to Krishna or Vishnu. To them, Krishna is saying Sukriti Arjuna. These are the 4 pious souls, not those who wander to different temples, to different devatas, not those categories here. All right? Like there's a point mentioned here. Okay, let's go to the slide. Let's briefly take a look at it. What are these categories? So Baldev Vidyabhushan describes about these categories and also gives an example for each one of them for us to understand that. What does it mean? So artho, the distress, when you are distressed and take shelter of the Lord exclusively, this is that category of Sukriti people here. And Baldev Vidyabhushan gives an example of Gajendra. His life was threatened and he offered his prayer to the Lord for protection. That is a point over here. All right. Next is Artharthi, the desirous of wealth. Okay, let me ask all of you. You would know the answer for this. So who was desirous of wealth and he went to Krishna? It's an easy question. Dhruva Maharaj, correct. That's what Baldev Vidyabhushan says. Dhruva Maharaj was the one who went, lacking financial stability, etc. And then Jigyasu, curious. They're eager to get answers. It's not that they are interested in bhakti, but they have questions and they want to find answers. Like, why do bad things happen to good people? What is the law of karma? What happens after death? Why there's so much suffering, etc., like that. So they are not the one who are actually looking forward to practice bhakti or establish relation with the Lord, but they want answers. So any example for this category of person? You can type in, that will be quick. No, not Sukdev Goswami, Baba. Not Sukdev Goswami. Shaunak Adi Rishi. Shaunak Adi Rishi, they were not exactly devotees, the sages of Namashani. Correct. Like that. And then comes the 4th category, the Jnani. The Jnani, who is one who is in search of knowledge. He's actually in search of absolute truth. He wants to establish his relationship. And he is the one. Now you can give an example of Sukdev Goswami or 4 Kumaras for that reason, like that. So here we find some interesting comments by Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan about this. So let me just read out what he says about it. First of all, the first three categories are to Arthati and Jigyasu, refers to Sakama Bhaktas. And the fourth type, Agyani, refers to a person who is dedicated, whose goal of life is to establish one's relationship. In other words, he wishes to serve the Lord, like that. So the first three types of bhaktas are called as Karma Mishra Bhaktas. So their bhakti is infected with desire for certain results, called Karma Mishra. And the fourth type of bhakta, the Jnani, is referred to as Jnana Mishra Bhakti. And then later in this Bhagavad Gita, particularly verse number 8.12, chapter 8, verse number 12, we'll also get to learn about Yoga Mishra Bhakti. This is subject matter which is elaborately described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but I'm just sharing certain things here. So, Baldev Vidyabhushan writes, I'm reading it out. The first three are called Karma Mishra Bhaktas or Sakama Bhaktas. What is the result of this bhakti? When people approach Lord Vishnu, for example, Sukdev Goswami says, Akama Sarva Kamova Moksha Kama Udhariti Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. So Yajate Sapurusham, but something like that. Akama Sarva Kama. Those who do not have desire, those who have all the desires, those who want liberation. In any situation, one should always approach Lord, Supreme Lord. So what is their destination? If like that we are worshipping Lord Vishnu, a question arises, what is our destination? What is the destination for that person? And why am I discussing this is, what should be our attitude towards those who are not Nishkama Bhaktas, who are Sakama Bhakta? So that's the reason I'm sharing certain points here. So the result of this bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, is attainment of the respective desires, which means freedom from suffering, attainment of wealth, and finding answers to their questions, etc., etc. And after that, because the superior nature of the object of their worship, because they're serving Lord directly, these devotees have the opportunity to obtain liberation also. But what liberation they get? Well, they Vidyabhushan, right? They attain a liberation in the form of Salokya, which means even these people, if they continue to stay steadfast in their, let's say, Karma Mishra Bhakti to Lord Vishnu, then they get a liberation known as Salokya, which means residing on the same planet like that. And in that case, there is no fall down. But the result of Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Jnani, which is being described, is superior to all these three, Karma Mishra Bhakti. And what is his destination? His destination he attains is Shantarati. There are 5 rasas, Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vasalya, and Prema. So this Jnana Mishra Bhaktas are the one who become Shantarati or Shanta devotees, like that. So this is the position. So point here I'm trying to make here with this is, our Acharya has explained, in any situation, if somebody approaches Lord Vishnu or Lord Shri Krishna and serves him steadfastly, even for the fulfillment of his desires or the freedom of suffering, he still is considered to be on a very great platform. He still has nothing to lose, is only going to gain. And ultimately, he can even get moksha. That's the point is being described here. All right. So let's go to the next verse here. So Arjuna began to ponder, my dear Lord, you have talked about 4 varieties of devotees. So my question to you is, among these 4, who is the most dear to you? Lord Shri Krishna says, Tesham jnani nitya yukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi jnanino atyartham aham sacha mama priya. So Lord Shri Krishna says, among these 4, Tesham jnani, out of them jnani, nitya yukta, because he's always engaged in my service, eka bhaktir, with a single one-point attention, vishishyate, is special. Priyohi jnanino atyartham, I'm dear to him, and he is aham sacha mama priya, and he is dear to me. So among the 4, the Jnana Mishra Bhakta is more dear. Why? Because he is actually at least not approaching the Lord for any hidden purposes to be fulfilled. He wants to know the Lord, he wants to establish a relationship with the Lord, but he's still situated on jnana. His devotion is not yet mature to the stage of anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavrata, which means by the mercy of the devotees, he has come to the stage of jnana mishra, but yet he has not attained to the stage of, the pure devotional service, which does not have any cause. The devotee wants to serve the Lord without any hetu, without any cause of fulfillment for oneself. That's the point here. So that is being described here. So it is mentioned by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Very beautiful point he mentions. Among these four, the Jnani is considered to be the best. He is the best because he is Nitya Yukta. Having given up desires such as getting relief from suffering, getting wealth, or getting knowledge of Atma, he is serving Krishna constantly, while others engage for the purpose of getting their desires. So Krishna is saying the Jnani has unmotivated devotion to me, while others have certain desires. Therefore, Jnani is the best. Now question comes, oh, if Jnani is the best, does it mean the other three are not dear to you? Those who are Artha, Athati, and Jigyasu, Krishna says, no, it's not like that. Even they are dear to me. Udhara sarva evaitai jnani tu atmaiva me matam astitaha sahi yuktatma mam evanuttamam gatim. Somebody please read out the translation. Udhara sarva evaite. Krishna says, all these are magnanimous souls. Who comes to my shelter, Krishna says, they're Udhara, they're great personalities. Beautiful word. Translation? We can read the purport also, small purport, beautiful purport.
Kamalika Mataji.
Yes. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal.
Purport.
Purport. It is not that devotees who are less complete in knowledge are not dear to the Lord. The Lord says that all are magnanimous because anyone who comes to the Lord for any purpose is called a Mahatma or great soul. The devotees who want some benefit out of devotional service are accepted by the Lord because there is an exchange of affection.
What a beautiful point. Beautiful point. Even those who are coming and asking the Lord for something, there is some affection for the Lord. And Prabhupada is speaking in terms of relationship of father and child. Child asking his father, he asks the father because he has some affection, and the father gives because he has some affection. So externally it may seem like it's selfish, but yet there is some exchange of love. That's what Prabhupada is writing. Go ahead.
Out of affection, they ask the Lord for some material benefit, and when they get it, they become so satisfied that they also advance in devotional service.
Which means their faith becomes more steady, and they become more fixed up, and they advance in their devotional life. Fantastic. Go ahead.
But the devotee in full knowledge is considered to be very dear to the Lord because his only purpose is to serve the Supreme Lord with love and devotion.
Hare
Such a
Krishna.
devotee.
So here now the devotee, advanced devotee is talked about. He is in love with the Lord. He cannot live without the Lord. But there are other categories of devotees are also. Karma Mishra Bhaktas also discussed. The point, very beautiful verse, which actually emphasizes the Lord's gratefulness towards anyone who approaches him. This is again going back to the second chapter. Neha Vikramanashasi Pratyavayana Vidyate. Swalpamasya dharmasya trayate mahatobhya. That also describes the gratefulness of the Lord, where Krishna says, Swalpa. Alpa means meager. Swalpa means very, very meager. Fraction of time. Even for a fraction of time, somebody remembers me. I'm so grateful to him. Trayate mahatobhyat. That service to me can save him from the greatest danger. Same thing Krishna is mentioning here. So the point is, if our master is so grateful, then how much so we should be grateful to each other, at least to begin with the devotees who are helping us day in, day out to make progress in Krishna consciousness. Secondly, how much kind we should be to those who are serving the Lord, even if they have some selfish desires. Because Prabhupada writes, there is some affectionate dealings between them. So rather than discrediting such devotees or karma mishra bhaktas, fault finding with them, or disparaging them or belittling them by saying that, oh, you have so many anathas, desires, etc. Unless you're a teacher, you don't have the right. If you're a teacher, then to help the student move forward, then you may say these are your flaws. Otherwise, be grateful that he's remembering the Lord, he's serving the Lord. We should not become proud of our little bhakti here. So we should also develop this culture of gratitude. Very beautiful verse from the 9th canto. Sadhavo hridayam mayam sadhunam hridayam tuham madanyatena janati naham tebhyo managapi. Sadhavo hridayam madhyam mayam. The devotees always reside in my heart. Sadhunam hridayam tu aham, and I always reside in the hearts of my devotees. The devotee mad anyate na janati. The devotee does not know anything beyond me. Naham te bhumanagapi. And I also cannot forget the devotee. Papa says there is a very intimate relationship between the Lord and the devotees. Pure devotees in full knowledge are never out of spiritual touch. Therefore, they're very much dear to Lord Shri Krishna. So going back to the slide deck. So who is the best? Text number 17. Does that mean that the three are not kind or not dear to Krishna? Text number 18 clarifies that. Now the next question comes is, how long would it take for Karma Mishra Bhaktas to become like Jnana Mishra Bhaktas? Or to go to the next level, pure Bhaktas? That's the discussion of verse number 19. Text number 19 says, Bahunam Janmanam Anti Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudev Sarvamiti Samhatma Sadullavha. So it may take several lifetimes for a person through gradual progression to come to the stage where he understands Vasudeva Sarvamiti. There is nothing beyond Vasudeva. Everything is shelter dependent on Vasudeva, like that. So in other words, this whole thing, so this is about progress of faith of a devotee through his karma mishra bhakti to jnana mishra bhakti, and then come to a stage of pure devotion service. But this all gets executed very rapidly. It can happen within one lifetime if one is fortunate enough to find shelter or take shelter of a pure devotee or a bona fide representative oneself, like that. That's a point being mentioned here. Okay. So that is the discussion so far. And Prabhupada makes some beautiful point in the purport. Let's take a look at it. Prabhupada says full knowledge. Vasudevam Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. One who knows me in full. What it means, full knowledge. Prabhupada says 5 things in the purport. I'm just putting in a slide deck for your quick perusal. First, this is something you really want to memorize it or maybe write it down for yourself. The first thing is, spiritual life is full of activities, which means we have an active relationship with the Lord and we can exchange rasa, sakhe, vasalya, dase, madhuri rasa, etc., etc. So spiritual life is not boring. They're full of activities. Second, material world is a perverted reflection. So these are the realizations and conclusions of a person, or this is the you can say the maturity, the stage of maturity when one is convinced of these things. Second, material world is a perverted reflection of spiritual world. In other words, complete realization of the material world to be as prison house. Dukhalayam ashashvatam. He's convinced of it. Third, what does it mean to be full knowledge? Supreme Personality Godhead is the cause of all causes. He is the immediate cause, he is the remote cause, and is also the ultimate cause. Fourth, he realizes dependence on Lord's mercy, which means I'm not an independent, rather I depend entirely on the Lord. This dependency will be discussed in the 15th chapter beautifully, where Lord Shri Krishna talks about in verse number 12, 13, 14, 15, how a living entity depends for his bodily sustenance, for his mental equilibrium of peace, and for the nourishment of the soul entirely on me. Or in other words, how I am providing for his well-being. Very beautiful, important verses. And the fifth, Supreme Personality Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. So what is the goal of yoga? Or what is the goal of spiritual practice? Is to attain devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. So based on these 5 things, we can evaluate our faith based on these 5 parameters. How much we are convinced of these things. how much we are solidified in these 5 things, that will tell us, how much we have matured in our Krishna consciousness. We'll conclude this session and take a quick break, but let us give you one quick example, and do a quick exercise. Let us consider a family of 7 sons. First son is obedient to parents, and parents have given him responsibility to take care of younger brothers. Second son is a troublemaker, selfish, and have rejected his parents. Whereas the third, fourth, and the fifth son, they are in the category of distress, or either one who need money or one who need an answer. For third, fourth, and fifth son in that category. And the sixth son, his motive is to serve parents, but he has not been yet fully trained in how to actually serve the father properly. And the seventh son is one whose life is fully dedicated to serving the parents. So, who is the first son in this discussion? Where are we on the Zoom? Yeah, here it is. Please type it on the chat window. Who is, according to you, is the first son? Obedient to parents, and parents have given him responsibility to take care of younger brothers. Okay, those who have found the answer, if we want to give an attempt, let's hear from all. Mother Varshana Kishori Devi Dasi Ki Jai, who just got initiated 2 days before. Mother Vasha. Yes, Mother Varshana Kishori Devi.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanvat Pranam.
That was. Hari Hari.
Sorry, my hand was up for reading, but
No problem. You have been forced to volunteer for the answer. Give an attempt.
I'll give it
No
a try.
worries.
Yeah, the first one is demigods.
Okay, fantastic. Who do you think about the second son? Troublemaker, selfish, rejected his parents.
The demons.
Demons, okay. What about the next category? Third, the fourth, and the fifth son.
They will be Artharthi.
Okay. Oh, let's start with the seventh son. That's an easy one.
No,
Who
I
do you
think
is-
the first Artha. The third, fifth,
Artha. Yeah,
third,
correct.
fourth, and
So
fifth
you
is
got that. These are, and you don't have to necessarily say the Sanskrit, but you understood, right? These are the
Yeah.
Sukriti.
Yeah.
Those who come to, those who are willing to follow the father, okay? Who is the sixth son? Mother
Sixth would
Satya
be
is quick in typing in. She's saying Gyani. What do
Gyani.
you say? Gyani. And the seventh son?
First one, the Jnana Mishra.
No. That is the sixth son. The seventh is the
Oh, the
Bhakta.
seventh is Bhakta.
Seventh is you.
Bhakta.
Yeah,
No.
seventh is you. That has not been discussed, but we added your name here. Okay. All right. So that's the answer here. Got it? First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. So we all want to become one of the first of the seventh son like that. So here are your answers. So first son is the demigods. Second is the 4 kinds of impious, Dushkriti. Third to sixth is the 4 kinds of pious people. And seventh is a pure devotee of the Lord. So as a parent, any parent would be impartial to all. However, their reciprocation with their sons will depend on how the sons reciprocate to them. So that's the point. If I have to ask you, if you are the parent, who among the 7 sons would you love the most? It's a very simple question. But naturally, you will love the 7th son the most. So when in the 9th chapter, this question would be asked by Arjuna, my dear Lord, looks like you're a little partial. Krishna says, no, I am not partial to anyone, but I don't envy anyone, I don't love anyone, but yet to my devotees, I definitely give them a special favor. It's just but natural. Because we have it means is, the reflection of what Lord has it. So with that, we conclude the 3rd section. And now we come to the 4th and the last section of the 7th chapter from verses 20 to 30. Here, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur raises a point that Arjuna is thinking, my dear Lord, what happens to those who have material desires but do not approach you, but they approach the Devatas, either for the desire of wealth or to remove their suffering? What happens to those? Another Acharya mentioned a different way. We can do it, consider this section different way, where Arjuna is pointing, my dear Lord, seems to be you're talking about yourself, but what about those who take shelter of Devtas? What happens to them? What about that? So in this section, in this 10 verses, Lord Shri Krishna establishes monotheism, wherein he distinguishes himself from the Devatas, very, very clearly mentions that Devatas are the powerful, empowered living beings. They are not the gods. To consider empowered administrators to be at the same position as the prime minister for that reason is a very dangerous misconception. So Lord Shri Krishna in these verses clears up the misconception about those who go to Devatas, considering them as all in all. Krishna says, no, that's not the case here. Fine. So these verses would answer the set of questions here. So I'm gonna do this series of we can do one thing here. We can just read out the verses in the translation. I'm not intending to really go into the purport. All the purports are very important. I'm gonna do this last 10 verses in a question answer format because all of you have read about this concept before. So what we can do right now, and second thing I wanted to check, I have to conclude today at 3 o'clock because I have another engagement for which I have to leave. So it's 2:17. If we need to take a 5-minute break, we can break for that, or else if you wish, we can continue and conclude by 3 o'clock. What is the opinion of public? Democracy, we follow. So what do you say? Okay. So hats off to your patience. You're saying continue. I don't know how much empowered you all are that you can sit for so long. I get inspired being with all of you that you can sit for so long. All right. Okay, so we're going to read the verses and translation, and then I'll come back and have a little question answer with all of you. I'll just speak a little bit briefly, and then we'll have question answer. Be ready for some question answers. All right, text number 20. I'll be quick with this. Kamestasya hritanyana prapadante anya devataha tam tam niyamam asthaya prakritya nihata swaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender to demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Text number 21. Yo yo yam tanum bhattaha shraddhyarchitam ichchati tasya chalam shraddham tameva vidadhamiham. I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity, which means the faith in that deity also comes from Krishna. And who approaches such devatas? Krishna says in text number 20, Kames teste hritanyana, whose intelligence has been stolen by greed or lust. Only they go and follow the mode of worship of different devatas. Text number 22. So the faith comes from Lord Shri Krishna. What about the gifts? My dear Lord, do you also give the benefits that devatas blesses us with? Krishna says, yes. Text number 22. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktas Tasyaradhanam Ihate Labate cha tatha kaman Mayyeva Vihitan Hidan. And now with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed to me, are bestowed by me alone. Oh, my dear Lord, you only do it. Yes, Arjuna, I only do that. Only that is my representative who appears to be doing that. My dear Lord, what is the result? What will we gain after worshipping these devatas? Krishna says, nothing. Text number 23. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavati alpamedasam devan deva yajoyanti madbhaktayanti mamapi. Arjuna, you will gain nothing. What will you gain? Whatever you gain at the end of your life, you lose everything. Even if you're double PhD and CEOs of 5 multinational companies, when you're born in the next life, you still have to go to kindergarten. You cannot tell your teacher, hey, don't you know? I am the owner and the CEO of the 5 multinational companies. They'll say, Ladka bahut acha mazak karta hai. So whatever you gain, you would lose it. That's what Krishna says here. Translation. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the devatas go to the planets of devatas. Devan deva yajoyanti madbhaktayanti mamapi. But my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Okay, my dear Lord, what about impersonalists? They seem to be also worshipping you. What is their gati? Text number 24. Avyaktam vyaktimapanam manyante mamabuddhaya param bhavam ajananto mama avyayam anuttamam. Unintelligent man who do not know me perfectly think that I, Supreme Personality Godhead, was impersonal before, and now I have assumed this personality. This is what Mayavadi says. Exactly this is what Mayavadi says. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme, like that, being discussed here. And Prabhupada in the purport gives evidences of his form, various examples, like that. And text number 25. Why impersonalists who are engaged as okay. So, my dear Lord, although you are present everywhere, why you are still not visible? That's a question that comes in Arjuna's mind. And Krishna says, text number 25, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrtha mudhoyam nabijanati loko mamajamavyam. I'm never manifest to the foolish, unintelligent. For them, I'm covered by my internal potency. Therefore, the second last verse of Ishopanishad, the yogis are praying, my dear Lord, please remove Maya Dikshina. What is that? One second. Mother Medhavani, take out the Ishopanishad text number 17 quickly. The verse skipped from my head. That's what they say, my dear Lord, please remove the glaring effulgence so that we can see your beautiful form. Are you going to take time, or I'll pull it out quickly? Ishopanishad, text number 17. No. Go to the next one, 18th. 18 verses are the Ishopanishad, right? Or 17. So then it was the 16th verse. Go to the 16th verse. Sola Satratarya. Oh, ये भी नहीं है. Wait a second. Okay, open 15th one. This is the one. Correct. Hiranmayena patrena satya sapihitam mukham tattvam pushan apavaranam satya dharmaya drashtrate. Madam Medhavani, read the translation, please.
O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee.
Hare Krishna. So you see that point here. So similarly in 25th verse in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, I do not make myself available to the less intelligent people. I am covered by my internal potency. So who can understand Lord? Only pure devotees. Text number 26. Oh, does it mean, my dear Lord, you cannot be known as you are by the living entities? Krishna says, text number 26, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mantu vedana kashyana. O Arjuna, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. Text number 27. I'll give you the storyline in a short while. This is a beautiful section actually. Ichchadvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sargayanti parantapa. Ocean of Bharata, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arising from desire and hate. So, text number 28. How and when living entities get covered by Maya, my dear Lord, and how to get free from it? Text number 28 answer. Yeshantwantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandvamo nirmukta bhajante mam dridvrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives, in this life of sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So when they take shelter, when their sinful activities have stopped. Text number 29 and text number 30. Jaramarana mokshaya mama shritya yatantiye Te Brahma Tadvidhu Krishnam Adhyatmam Karma Chakilam. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age, death, take refuge in me and devotion of it. They're actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. So here Krishna speaks about Jara Marana Mokshaya, about old age and death, and this leads Arjuna into thinking now. I'll tell you what he thinks. Text number 30. Shadi bhutadi daivam mam sadi yagnyam chaye vidhu prayana kale pichimam te viduryukta chetasa. Those in full consciousness of me who know me, the Supreme Lord, with the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods, all the methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Person got it even at the time of death. If you see the last two verses, Krishna spoke about death or the time of death. And this is what leads to the questions that Arjuna would ask. Around 5 questions, not 5 questions. There are 8 questions that Arjuna is going to ask in the 8th chapter, which are based on the last 2 verses of the 7th chapter. All right. This was a quick overview of this section. Let's get into the little bit of discussion about it. Very, very beautiful section, actually. Let's go back to slide deck here. So demigod worship 20 to 23. So Krishna says only less intelligent people surrender to demigods. It is Krishna who supplies the faith, and the benefits are also endured by Krishna. And text number 23, what is the result of worshipping demigods? Our results are perishable. At the max, they can go to their loka, but still they'll, when the death comes, they'll again have to leave that place like that. So in text number 23, result of worshipping Devatas. So benefits are endured by me. When that verse happened, when Krishna spoke, so Arjuna began to ponder, my dear Lord, it seems like ultimately you are enduring the benefits. So it seems like you give better results. Looks like, you give temporary results to the worshippers of Devatas, but permanent result to your worshippers. Isn't it unjust for you to do that, since you're the Supreme Lord? So Lord Shri Krishna mentions that in text number 23 about it. You know what to do, everything is temporary. In other words, Arjuna is asking, well, if the Devatas are your bodies, then worshipping them should also yield the same result as worshipping you directly. Krishna says, no, that doesn't happen like that. And then text number 24-25 was about discussion on impersonal worship. So there are another class of people who take shelter of higher powers, and their surrender is considered improper. So text number 25, if you have eternal form, quality, and pastime, then why we do not see all that? Krishna says, Naham Prakasha, I do not manifest myself to the unintelligent people. And then text number 26 was a discussion. My dear Lord, do you also get covered over by the curtain of Maya? So Krishna says, Vedaham samatitani. Arjuna, I am never covered. The living entities may be covered, but Krishna is never covered, nor is his knowledge, because he is above the material, nature. And the flow of discussion, text number 27 was the living entity. The original sinful desire of the living entity is to take Krishna's position as supreme enjoyer. Ichha dvesha samuthena dvanda mohena bharata. So why we are into this material world? Because of envy towards the Lord, because of which we have descended to this world. So the question, when do the jivas become bewildered by material energy, is being answered in the text number 27. When they develop envy towards the Lord, that's the point. How? Because they develop desire for sense objects, because of which they are put into this world. However, if somebody becomes devoted, text number 28, how somebody becomes devoted? Only when, in other words, the question is asked, if everybody is born in delusion, how some people become devoted? Only those who are freed from their sinful life. They are the one who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord. And I'm just looking, where are the question answers here? I made the whole thing. Yeah, it comes to the next slide. Okay, so this is the conclusion of this, the whole chapter, and then we'll go to the question answers here. So the essence of this chapter, importance of hearing from bona fide sources, The rate your devotion to Krishna has been described. Then there are different categories of people or mindset. And finally, when does one becomes freed from the dualities? Yeshantu gatam papam, when he has stopped performing sinful activities, being purified, at that point of time, he becomes freed from the duality. Now, we wanted to come to this section of trivia. Now, this is entirely based on the last 10 verses. So we'll see how it goes about. I'll just show you the question, then we'll go one by one here. So why doesn't everyone take shelter of Krishna? Why demigod worshippers are called less intelligent? So forth. Let's come to the first one. Ooh, answer should not come. Okay. Why doesn't everyone take shelter of Krishna? Any thoughts? Okay. Anadi, Anshuman, Prabhu. Okay, you suddenly lowered your hand. Okay, that was for reading probably. Mother Rati Manjari, let's hear from you. Why doesn't everyone take shelter of Krishna?
Because of impiety, Prabhuji.
Because of impiety. Okay, what else?
And envy towards the Lord.
Envy. Okay, what if I say because of material desire? Of course, envy is the root over there. Okay, why people are not able to take shelter of Krishna? As you saw through the discussion here, there are 4 categories of people. Dushkritina. Their desires are for sense enjoyment, and they are sinful. Correct. Okay, next question. Why demigod worshippers are called less intelligent? Now, I know these answers would make more sense if you've read the last 10 verses thoroughly, Prabhupada purport, but I thought you might have had discussion on this before, so we'll see it differently. Okay. Anadi and Shuman Prabhu, go ahead. What all are the reasons, possible reasons?
Hare Krishna, Pradipanath. So one is the prime reason is that the results provided by the demigods are temporary and would perish ultimately. And,
limited and temporary, correct?
Yeah.
Why they're called foolish? What's a possible next reason?
And then it like the results provided by the demigods are also allowed to by the Lord himself, by the Supreme Personality.
Yeah, in other words, they are in ignorance of Lord's supremacy. As you said, the results are actually awarded by Krishna. Krishna speaks about it in Bhagavad Gita. Correct? Text number 22. What else?
And they would still remain in this cycle of birth and death, and
Perfect,
kind of would
correct.
not be. Yeah.
So they will not receive liberation. They'll continue to hover over in this mental creation. So this is being addressed between 20th verse to 24th verse. Perfect answers. To give you an example, just like somebody goes to a pandit, shows his hand, he says, "Oh, fantastic! Your mother and father is just like Dashrath and what is it, Kaushalya, which means you are Ram." He praises you like this. You are such a wonderful. Your wife, which obviously becomes Sita. As you become a Ram, and your sons are like Love Kush, etc., etc. Everything is perfect. All is wonderful. But there is one problem. There is Sade Sati or Shani Dasha. It's just hovering onto your head. Is about to begin from the next week. Oh, then you'll have a very rough patch of your life. Next 6 years of your life will be very difficult, but everything else is wonderful. However, there is less chances of you surviving those 6 years. You might even die. Then what will you say? Swamiji, somehow save us. And then you say, okay, you do this. So he said, okay, I'll do one yagya, Shani Shanti yagya. I don't know if that exists, but I'm just making a name here. It's only going to cost 50,000 rupees and you will have a wonderful life. And what's our general responses of the people outside? Yes, you do this. Do it and get us free from it. But what's the problem here? That's what we are discussing here in this section. The problem here is if somebody does it like that, yes, you may get a temporary relief, but the same punishment which you owe because of your karmic activities will come back with compound interest first. And what is the second problem? We're talking about approaching devatas. You're approaching to them for some relief. But what's the second problem? Maybe, of course, they definitely respond back. They fulfill a desire. They may relieve you from your suffering. But first thing is suffering will still come back. It's just temporarily delayed. What is the second problem? Any quick thoughts? We'll continue the cycle. That is all done. We'll continue. You are in the material world. That is all sure. We're talking in terms of a sinful action. So your reactions have been delayed by all that yajna, tapa, etc. Your worship, whatever you did. What is a major problem? Yes, Mother Taruni Gopika, right. See, our worship, our yajna to devatas will not purify us of our sinful propensity. Because the propensity remains, we will again perform it. Yes or no? But when somebody takes to the worship of the Supreme Lord, the rules and regulation is such, we automatically get purified of all our sinful propensities. Is it making sense? That's the two major differences here. Thank you, Mother. Wonderful answer. Okay. What are the differences and commonalities between Jiva and Devatas? Let's begin with the differences. Who would like to answer this? Madhav Kripa Prabhu, please go ahead.
Prabhuji, the duration of life, I mean, anyways, both will die at some point. There could be a difference in the duration of age. That's one.
Okay.
And then
I would say that's more of a commonality that both will die.
Yeah, it's a commonality. Yeah.
You know? Okay. What's the difference?
Differences, of course, they have been given a higher role owing to their own past karmas.
Correct. That's the main point. The difference between us and the Devatas, we should be very clear about it. They are the empowered representatives on behalf of the Lord.
Sure.
That's a major difference. Everything else is same. Tattva is same. Correct. Thank you. Anything else, Madhav Kripa Prabhu, for that? You got muted or what happened?
That much only, Guruji. I mean,
Okay. What are the commonalities? Oops. Yeah. Both will die is one. What else? Okay, I don't know what's happening with Prabhu. Somebody else would like to answer? Mother Anjana, go ahead. We have to be quick with this.
Both have to surrender to the Lord to achieve the ultimate liberation.
Fine. Both are dependent on the Lord. Correct.
Dependent
Both are dependent on the Lord. What else? Both are having material desires. All right. What else? Okay, it's taking time. I thought you all would be very familiar. That's the reason I didn't go into details. So here are some answers over here. Both of them are within the modes of material nature. Even the object of your worship is not freed from the modes of material nature, even up to Brahmaji for that reason. All right? Okay. What is the problem in approaching demigods for material desires? Okay, Mother Medhavni, go ahead. Haribol, is this way making a little more sense? Or if you want, we can read the purpose. I thought you will be familiar, so that's the reason I raised questions. Okay, Mother Medhavni, go ahead.
The problem is that the desires don't get satisfied eternally. At the same time, the desires also don't get purified. So we continue to have desires, and then there is the continuation of lamenting and hankering continues even after those desires get fulfilled.
Okay. What else? Anything else?
Temporary.
So we still continue to remain in the material world because it doesn't get purified, correct? What's another thing? They are not the independent benedictors, right? They still depend on the Supreme Lord to give us benediction. And the second point you made, demigod worship is material, which means they don't get purified. The desires do not get purified. Thank you all for those typing the right answers. Okay. The fifth question, how the Lord facilitates demigod worship? Who would like to answer this? How the Lord facilitates demigod worship? Okay, let's hear from you, Mother Ratimanjari. Go ahead.
He studies the faith in that particular demigod.
Studies the faith and
draws the curtain over himself. So,
okay.
curtain of Maya.
What else?
Yanti Devan Vratadevan. That.
All right. But think about it. How Lord facilitates demigod worship is one very important point.
he increases his faith in them more and more to the point that gradually they come to the level that they will go to their planets, and then from there again they will further move on to the next level,
Okay.
higher level.
Okay. What next? What else?
Bestows the material benediction that one is aspiring for through that demigod.
Okay. What else? Very important point. How Lord facilitates demigod worship is he empowers devatas to fulfill our desires. Yes. So that's the reason they're said to be empowered representatives. Is it okay? Making sense? Empowers the demigods and instills faith in the practitioner. That's how it's happening here. Okay. Sixth question. What is the understanding of the pure devotee? Hare Krishna. Go ahead. Who is speaking?
Yes, sorry. Actually, I have a point that I'm in.
Who is speaking? I'm sorry.
Hare Krishna. So this is Rishikesh Pankaj.
Yes, Rishikesh Prabhu.
Yeah. So I would like to understand that. I mean, you mentioned about this question that Lord is basically empowering the devtas.
Correct.
To fulfill the desires, but like in some instances, we have seen that. I mean, he is actually acted against stopping those traditions, like worshipping Indra for the rain.
Oh, those are not the regular practice. The Lord Shri Krishna prohibiting Gokulvasis, Brajvasis from doing Indra Puja is actually because Krishna wanted to re-establish Indra in his position in a proper way. He had become very proud and arrogant. So that's a very particular situation. It was a case of rectifying Indra's mistake there. So Indra's pride, he became very proud, arrogant, and the symptom of that is he went mad. He wanted to kill people. So knowing the fact he cannot perform his seva properly to fix his consciousness. So you have to see in a very personal way the whole thing is happening here. So imagine you are a leader, or let's say you're the leader of the family, a joint family, for example. As a leader of the family, which means you would definitely going to empower different family members to make decisions and to carry out certain activities, isn't it? Somebody would handle the kitchen, somebody may handle the finance, etc., etc. Now, when you see somebody who you have empowered is not behaving properly, what are you going to do? You're going to find a means to fix or rectify it. Lord Shri Krishna chose that way to rectify Indra. It's not that Lord Shri Krishna prohibited anyone and everyone from worshipping Indra. He only prohibited or discouraged Brajvasis, yes? And in the same way, the scriptures, Indra worship is recommended. All right?
Right. Got it.
Okay, so what's our question right now? Our question is, what is the understanding of the devotees on the subject matter of their relationship with the devatas? Okay, it's good if somebody wants to speak up. Ravi Shekhar Rai, recognize himself as a servant of the Lord, other jivas as Vasudevam Kutumbakam. Okay. Madanjana, go ahead. What do you like to say on this? Okay, can't hear you at all. Now you start speaking. Speak up.
One who fulfills the desires of the Lord by providing the devotional service to him, engaging
Okay, the understanding of the devotee in relation to the subject matter that we are discussing about relationship with the devatas.
Okay.
How does he deal with the devatas and how does he deal with the Supreme Lord? That's the point here.
He respects them, Maharaj.
Okay, Kumarishan Poo writes, he respects demigods and requests to involve pata nahi kya hai ye. Yes, Madhurati Manju is saying something.
He gives respect, does not disrespect them.
Okay, because he sees them as an empowered representatives of the Supreme Lord. Very valid point. He does not disrespect them. Second, when he needs something, he does not. He never approaches devatas. He goes to the Supreme Lord. Because he understands the relationship between the devatas and the Supreme Lord. What else? Quick. All right. Never goes to the devatas for material needs. Text number 20. Next. He is fully dependent on the Supreme Lord and is satisfied with whatever he gives and does not give. He does not begin to doubt, oh, maybe I should try, Mother Lakshmi for some little extra bonus this year. Krishna is not making my promotion happen year after year. He doesn't change his faith. Next, he knows that everything comes from Supreme Lord And we are talking about the understanding of the pure devotee. He does not ask for any material benefits. Okay, now the next question is going to be difficult. That actually I have not discussed. It is in one of the puppets. What are the evidences of the personal form of the Lord? That's a little difficult for all of you to answer right now. Would anyone like to give any, because that's the discussion in the impersonal section. Any evidences of the personal form of the Lord from so far, what we have discussed in Bhagavad Gita? The very first answer is Krishna is speaking himself Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Okay, this is a little tricky. We'll skip it. You can see that later on. All right. And then comes to the conclusion here. I'll just go back. I have some time. Take a look at one or two important purposes because I skipped the purport. We'll come back to this conclusion slide. Let's take a look at the conclusion. Demigod worship is material, whereas the worship of the Supreme Lord is spiritual. Result of demigod worship are all perishable, but result of devotion service unto Krishna is unlimited and eternal. A pure devotee depends on the Supreme Lord and is satisfied with whatever Krishna gives. Krishna is imperishable and supreme. He is unborn, infallible, and he knows past, present, and future. For this section, you might notice for every point that I'm making, I've given you references because I want you to take out your time to read this purpose very carefully. And the question answers that we've discussed, again, review those same question answers in the light of our Prabhupada purpose. Therefore, for every answer I have mentioned, I've written a reference here. Krishna cannot be understood by mental speculation or by simply discussing Vedic literatures. He can be understood only by devotional service, beginning with chanting. To conclude with, what are general qualities of any worshipper? This is not highlighted in this particular section, but this is from various purposes of Srila Prabhupada. What are the qualities? First of all, what is an attitude? If you talk about the demigod worshipper, their attitude is generally live life to the fullest. Where focus is enjoying themselves, enjoying life, right? And the contrast, when you talk about devotee, Srila Prabhupada, the Nectar of Instruction preface writes, success in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower, right? And what is the meaning of attitude over there? It refers to Vaishnava etiquette. It refers to relationship and surrender to the Guru and the Lord. Next, what are the desire? Anyone who goes to the devatas or for anyone purpose for that, there are certain desires. So the qualities of a demigod worshippers is desire means they have unlimited desire. Now, anytime when person goes to temple, there's always some list from which they express something. Yes or no? They have something to ask from the Lord. What's the level of motivation by which we have different activities on the name of worship that goes on? The motivation is only one. They're motivated by desires. If I do this worship, I would get certain material benefits. What is the conception of, if we focus on demigod worshippers for that? The conception is, if I approach so and so demigod, then so and so material problem will get resolved. It's a very business-centric conception, give and take relationship. Such and such particular devata would resolve certain problem. And what is the goal of demigod worship? Is to get what they want and not to serve. That's the point here on demigod worship. Any questions anyone have? We can take a look at one or two verses here. On this subject matter, Hare Krishna. So text number 24 is the purport where Prabhupada gives elaborate references about the form of the Lord. So please do make note of it. I guess most of the things of the purport we have discussed in the question answer format. All right, we can read the purport, the last purport of the 30th verse, where Prabhupada gives a nice, beautiful summary. Mother Satya, I just saw your hand up. Can we just read the purport and then whatever you have to say? If you have it, please read the purport. 30th verse purport. Go ahead, unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Persons acting in Krishna consciousness are never deviated from the path of entirely understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the transcendental association of Krishna consciousness, one can understand how the Supreme Lord is the governing principle of the material manifestation and even of the demigods. Gradually, by such transcendental association, one becomes convinced of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and at the time of death, such a Krishna conscious person can never forget Krishna. Naturally, he is thus promoted to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Goloka Vrindavana. In the seventh chapter, this seventh chapter particularly explains how one can become a fully Krishna conscious person. The beginning of Krishna consciousness is association of persons who are Krishna conscious. Such association is spiritual and puts one directly in touch with the Supreme Lord. And by His grace, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the same time, one can really understand the constitutional position of the living entity and how the living entity forgets Krishna and becomes entangled in material activities. By gradual development of Krishna consciousness, in good association, the living entity can understand that due to forgetfulness of Krishna, he has become conditioned by the laws of material nature. He can also understand that this human form of life is an opportunity to regain Krishna consciousness and that it should be fully utilized to attain the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord. Many subjects have been discussed in this chapter. The man in distress, the inquisitive man, the man in want of material necessities, knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of Paramatma, liberation from birth, death, and diseases, and worship of the Supreme Lord. However, he who is actually elevated in Krishna consciousness does not care for the different processes. He simply directly engages himself in activities of Krishna consciousness and thereby factually attains his constitutional position as an eternal servitor of Lord Krishna. In such a situation, he takes pleasure in hearing and glorifying the Supreme Lord in pure devotional service. He is convinced that by his doing so, all his objectives will be fulfilled. This determined faith is called Dhrida and it is the beginning of Bhakti Yoga or transcendental loving service. That is the verdict of all scriptures. This seventh chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is the substance of that conviction.
Hare Krishna. So this seventh chapter marks the beginning of this discussion, which the subject matters and concepts which have been discussed will be further elaborated from the 8th chapter up to the 12th chapter. The demigod subject matter would be again taken up in the 9th chapter, if I'm correct. And the subject matter of impersonalist worshippers again would come back again. So to summarize this 7th chapter, the acronym was HEAD, if I'm correct. The importance of hearing was described, what to hear, from whom to hear, and the process of hearing is what we discussed. And it's the hearing by which we can understand the absolute truth. So then Arjuna thought, my dear Lord, well, if you are the absolute truth, which is acceptable to me, but what to do for those who want to see you? More than hearing, they want to put faith on seeing. Krishna says, yes, you can see me. Unseen is proven by the seen was a concept discussed in verse number 4 to 12. And then the next subject matter was, my dear Lord, I totally acknowledge and understand that you are the cause of all causes, you are the essence of all principles. But, well, if you are all prevalent, omnipresent, omnipotent, why there is a wide scale, large scale disillusion about your existence? Krishna says, I am the best of the magician because of my magic spell. Oh, really? So, my dear Lord, why you say if people surrender to you, so how do we overcome that magic spell? Surrender unto me. Devi Eshagunamai. So, my dear Lord, if by taking your shelter, we can overcome this magic spell, why there are so many learned people who still do not take your shelter? That makes a discussion on the 15th verse. Because there are, dushkriti, they are sinful people. They do not come to my shelter. Who are those? Mudha, foolish people, Naradma, lowest of mankind. And then Maya Aparatjnana, the learned people, but whose intelligence has been stolen by material energy. And Asuran, those who envy me, those who want to become me, those who want to become Krishna. Yet there are people who worship me. Who are those? They are Sukriti, pious people. But their desires of wealth, the desires of freedom from suffering, and they're inquisitive, they're curious about life, various questions they have. But there is one category of person among all these three, apart from all these three, who wants to actually serve me, who want to develop a relationship. That is called as Jnani. So among the four is best, Jnani is the best. It doesn't mean that I do not care for the three. I am grateful for all three. Like that, the subject matter concludes. And Arjuna asked, my dear Lord, what about those people who have desires, but they don't approach you, but they still approach some higher authority, which means devatas? And text number 20 onward discussion began. Who are devatas? What is the relationship of devatas and Krishna? How does the faith on the devatas increases? Who awards the benediction, etc.? What about those, my dear Lord, who take you, who claim that you are formless? And Lord Shri Krishna spoke about those categories of people who can see you, who cannot see you. When the living entity becomes delusion, when the living entity gets freed from the delusion, when he gets purified of all his sinful activities and reactions. Like that was a discussion which concluded with the last two verses in 7th chapter, talking about, certain what is that? Yajna, Deva, etc. There were a few terminologies that Lord Shri Krishna introduced at the end of the conversation, which led Arjuna to think. I did not focus on the 30th verse as such, because that verse would be discussed at length in the 8th chapter. So I didn't go to the Sanskrit for that. What happens at the time of death, etc. So 8 questions Arjuna would ask, taking a cue from the last 2 verses of the 7th chapter, and that's how the 8th chapter will increase. Title as Attaining the Supreme, if I'm correct. That's the title of that, which we'll see next time. So here we'll open the forum if in case anyone has any quick questions. Yes, I see a few hands up, Mother Satya and then Ramesh and Swarna Mataji. Yes, Mother Satya.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams.
Dandavat.
Prabhu, so I just had this question, thinking, so this, we have seen, maybe my understanding is like that, but demigods and the structure of having demigods and all this represents like a kind of like management kind of thing, where they are like administrative roles and all. That is what we have understood. So if they have been created for that particular purpose, then it is obvious, like many people are into that, like, okay, this is the authority through which I can get all these. So why first of all create that? And again, why Krishna says you can have direct access to me? So
Correct.
how significant
Wonderful
or
question.
that
Correct.
is?
So answer is, the reason is because we all are minute individual living entities. We all have our own different likings and dislikings. The culture of yajna, the culture of service to devatas has been created in the Vedic scriptures just to help individuals recognize there are some higher authorities. For example, people like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu, although despite being greatly learned in the scriptures, would never surrender to Vishnu. But they happily surrender to Brahma. They happily surrender to Lord Shiva. So that culture of accepting an authority has been created so that gradually they'll make an advancement. Which means our today's present condition is so deplorable, so terrible and horrific. Now nobody even accepts their parents as an authority. What to speak about accepting devatas? You getting it? So what was the culture then? And how far we have become away from the Vedic culture and understanding. So the Vedic culture was, people have definitely had a lot of respect for parents. Along with that, the higher authorities were also understood and they obeyed. Now everything is forgotten. Now we have even forgotten our authority of our parents. Nobody wants to listen to the parents now. So for that purpose, because of different likings and dislikings, we have been given all the options. You choose where you want to, where you find yourself. If the demons would also gain their power by the devatas only, Some would be a follower of Surya Devta, Sahasra Kavach. God has all his blessings from Surya Dev. He is the one who next life becomes Karna. Like that. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Ramesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
In the the 28th sloka translation, it says, persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are free from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Somewhere I read in the purport, Prabhupada says it's actually the mercy or because of the devotee that the person comes into the Krishna consciousness. But here Krishna says that because of past sinful reactions are completely eradicated. So I feel it's a kind of
No, it's the same thing. My question is how the past sinful reactions got eradicated. That also got eradicated by the practice of bhakti only, na?
So first,
and if the person has practiced bhakti,
devotee.
Yes, that's what you said. Prabhupada said you come to bhakti by the mercy of Vaishnavas. And I'm making a point. The sinful reactions got eradicated by the practice of bhakti. See, your sinful reaction cannot get eradicated by any yajna, tapa, etc. Only thing is you get temporary relief. We discussed that already. Why? Because sinful propensity is there. You were part of nectar devotion, right? Yeah, so we discussed that. Srila Rupa Goswami says only bhakti can burn the roots of our sinful desire. It is the only bhakti that can destroy the propensity. Otherwise, there is nothing which can destroy the propensity.
Okay, so first he can't actually, because of the mercy of the devotee, that he comes into the bhakti, and then from there he actually.
Otherwise, how is he getting freed from all the sinful reactions? Now, first thing. Second thing is, yes, there are different yajna, tapa, etc., by which he would have performed that also set you free from sinful reaction, but the propensities don't go away. And if the propensities have not gone away, then there are all the chances of performing sinful action. But look at the translation, what the verse says. Yesham tuanta gatam papam. He is freed from all the chances of performing a sinful action also. Which means he is freed from sinful propensities. Which means, the person would have performed bhakti to come to that stage. Bhakti can only bring you to that stage like that. The verse this particularly actually talks about is who becomes steadfast in bhakti. Like all of us. We also, it's not that it's going perfectly. We are also having struggles. Life in this world is a struggle. So we are not actually following this verse as of now. We are not into this, exactly in the situation of the verse. Now we are practicing bhakti, we are getting purified, but we face struggle because we're in this kind of a world. So like for example, you all are professionals, you're traveling around. It may happen that you may not get prasadam, you might have to eat maybe a vegetarian diet, but not prasad, but it's still sinful. You're getting it? I'm not saying you're doing wrong entirely, but I'm making a point. Yet we are not freed of it. So it's a verse that talks about those who got freed. But how I got freed? It's our story, by the practice of bhakti. And once that happened, then you are steadfast. All right. This is my understanding of that, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Sorry, I have another question, Prabhu.
Yes, go ahead.
The desires fulfilled by devatas in this material world are temporary, but even if Krishna fulfills any desires to the devotees, is that not also temporary in this material world? Because it eventually finishes everything.
Yeah, the very beautiful question, very thoughtful question. The beautiful point here to be noted in relation to Lord Shri Krishna is he ain't going to fulfill your desire so easily. First thing. Second thing, even if he's fulfilling your desire, it is only then when he has opened a way for you to go back home, back to Godhead, like Dhruva Maharaj. First, he awarded him liberation. Then he fulfilled his desire. Yes? Yeah. Therefore, nobody wants to go to Krishna. Very difficult to get anything through him. And in fact, he's known as Hari. Whatever you have, there's a lot of possibility he'll take it away also. All right.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Vaikuntapati Prabhu, Dhanvashmanam. Welcome. I didn't know you were here. I thought the vacations are still going on.
Long vacation. I was there at the beginning. Okay, I just want to add to the point what Ramesh
Prabhu was saying. Yes, go ahead, Prabhuji.
See, by fulfilling, like in that shloka, what he's saying, the 4 types of devotees who come to him also. And also, by fulfilling those material desires, actually what is Krishna doing is he's increasing our faith in him more. Because of which, we feel like approaching him more and more rather than going to anybody we get that conviction. Yes, ultimately I have to go to him because he takes care of both my material and spiritual requirements. If I may say so, is that okay, Madan Sundar Prabhu?
Prabhuji, I'm sorry, I got distracted with some messages. I started looking chat. I thought you were talking directly to Ramesh Prabhu. So in that sense, I brought both of you together on the screen. I'm so sorry for that.
No, I said that yes, what Prabhu says that are these material desires also not fulfilling these material desires? Is it not temporary? Answer is yes, it is temporary. But at the same time, what he is doing is that he is increasing our faith in him.
Correct.
And he's trying to bring us closer and closer to him.
Correct.
And what happens in this case is, we have to again get into Srimad Bhagavatam. I don't remember the chapter. I think it is in the 5th canto where Prabhupada is talking about it, where he is telling that, when we are doing our devotional service, these things, we get rid of many of the problems, etc. But getting that a true devotion depends upon our sincerity and level of faith that we have on him. He's talking in connection with chanting, he's talking. So how do we increase our faith and dependence on Krishna? Our dependence on Krishna gets increased only when we have that firm faith that he is there to take care of me in all situations. If I may take one more minute.
I'll add one example to your point to make it this more clear. What you're saying is so true. I know several people who attended programs, and suddenly their mental situation changed for good. And their faith became very strong. And that became the major reason for them to take to bhakti very seriously. Oh, it really works. Go ahead, Prabhuji, go ahead.
If I may quote Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, in his explanation, he is also talking something more, it really can hit us very badly. He is talking about atheist and theist, he is talking. And he says, general, our understanding of atheist is one who doesn't believe in God. He is what we think him as an atheist. But he says, even a theist as an atheist, if he doesn't depend on Lord Krishna for his survival and everything. So it's not just, you may be doing devotional service and everything, but are we really dependent on him for everything and saying that, yes, he is the ultimate authority, he will take care of me everything and I don't have to really do anything, simply surrender and serve him? Most of us are in devotional service, but have not reached that level, So to reach that, and so Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj is saying, even these categories of people are also atheists because they are not fully dependent on Krishna. So we have to
he was a little too straightforward. He'll call them atheists directly, correct?
Sorry?
I said Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur had that, the courage to call them directly atheist. You're correct. About this, he's talking about the Sukritini, the 4 category of pies. Among the 3 particularly, is being called as atheist for that reason.
Yes, correct. So thank you. Sorry to have taken your time.
No, all good. Discussions are always wonderful. Anything else from anyone? All right. Okay, Mother Manju. Yes. So before she began to ask a question, I have taken a snapshot for all those whose cameras were off all this while. And I sent it to our attendants in charge, and with a very clear message that for all those I have sent you a screenshot whose cameras are off, please mark them absent. Okay?
Prabhu, just now only I off mine.
Okay. So I'm not indicating to you for those who I found right now. So Mother Medhavni, you can share the message I've sent on the admin group. On the group, they will be marked absent for today. Yes, Mother Manju, go ahead. After the class time is over, you're welcome. But before that, if you do it, you'll be absent. Yes, Mother Manju.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Prabhu, now basically we all, now if you say north side, there'll be a specific area where they really worship Krishna. And south also, if you say towards Trishur, that area is fully dominated by Krishna. But then if you say the other part, majority is demigod worship. That is Shiva, or take it Durga, or varieties of Devis. So how is that, now when we take up this course, when we study, we understand that they are administrators, or they are doing the different administrative jobs. But that is only after undergoing the study. What about the normal people who is really directly offering their prayers to the Lord, like Vinayaga or Ganesh, and they're like, हाँ मुझे पास कर दो, या नारियल फोड़ो, या जो भी ये
So
है.
we discussed
So
already. We discussed about the qualities of these worshippers. I made 5 points, right? We talked about
yeah,
their
Prabhu, but
attitude,
what I want to
motivation.
say is, no, this is like, they are really, we can't be directly calling them as a foolish people or something, unless they don't come to the platform of studying Bhagavad Gita. From
Yeah,
a
see,
small age
only
itself.
Krishna can
Yeah.
call them foolish. For God's sake, never you should call them foolish. Huh?
Yeah, because this is many a
I
times,
was
because
here
even
repeating Krishna's
yeah,
words. We should never
yeah,
dare to
because
call them
yeah,
foolish.
yeah, because even I had the same problem. I was a hardcore Shiva worshipper, and literally in my when my Shiksha Guru started taking classes for me, my husband literally took the Shiva. I have a small Shiva linga which I used to be worshipping from the small age, and we are literally nobody is guiding us from that small age that this Shiva or Ganesha is there is no requirement to worship them directly. You have to worship Krishna. Everybody were just worshipped, where we were not giving them a hierarchy over here. Now this hierarchy system has only come after we have entered this.
Okay.
So it was so shocking. Many of my friends have, who after me also, though my husband was literally took the Shiva and kept it out in the kitchen. So we used to have wars. Until now, like my senior Prabhuji is there, he'll say she is a hardcore Shiva. We used to always have fights. So how will we handle such delicate situation wherein people are so strongly believing and worshippers? How will we convince these people to that, no, Krishna is there, the ultimate? And we can't tell that, okay, you people are fools, you are taking care, you are doing other.
So how to deal with these people who, if I understand your
Yeah.
comments, if those, I would be at your place, I would not really try to convince them against their conviction. 3rd chapter, Lord Shri Krishna says not to disturb the faith or the faithless. At least they have faith in something. Encourage them, engage them in the service of the Lord. So I believe we have discussed at length this particular verse from the, I believe in the 6th chapter. Yeah, 6th chapter, where we talked about the qualities of an advanced yogi, and that was empathizing, sensitive. We should be sensitive to others, be very respectful. When it comes to demigods, the proper understanding of a devotee about the devatas are, they are my worshipable seniors. As much as we offer respect to our spiritual master, to that degree we should not have any kind of belittling in our mind. Now, Prabhupada did call them demigods. It's just to create a difference in our consciousness, because we are coming from a background where we saw everyone as one. Yet simultaneously, Prabhupada will give a comment, then, if you have a president and somebody is vice president, that's not, disparaging to that person. Vice president is still a very great position than an ordinary citizen like that. So at my end, I will offer what we have in terms of a Krishna conscious culture. And if they like it, they find it meaningful, and we'll offer education, and we'll say what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. And on top of it, if they have doubt how Krishna says demigod worshippers are fools and all that, as we had a discussion, what is the meaning of fool? Because they don't get long-lasting benefit like that. Another thing is Shiva worshipper, Brahma, they are great personalities. Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. Brahmaji, Shiva, they are among the 12 Mahajans. So we can tell them, well, if in case you understand their relationship with the Lord, continue doing the worship of Lord Shiva. but now worship in the sense that you're worshiping Lord Shiva, who is the best of the devotee of the Supreme Lord. He is Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. Now the desires, the wish that you want to make to him, you can make a desire, you can make a prayer. My dear Shiva, you know what is best for me. Give me the best so I can attain the best in my life. Just like I believe I have told this story here, maybe not here in another place. You go to Vrindavan, there's this Radha Vallabha temple. Beautiful deities of Radha Vallabh, right next to, what is it called as? Baki Bihari. Just 2 lanes ahead of that, Radha Vallabh. Now, how did this Vallabh deity came? Around 500, 600 years ago, there was no Vallabh deity. Then Vallabh deity came. How did this deity came? This Vallabh deity, what we have in the temple, if you're not visited, do go and visit and see this beautiful deity. It is said to be the deity of Lord Shiva. It was worshipped by Lord Shiva. So now question comes, how did this deity came down here? So this deity, Hari Vanshrai, if I'm correct to that, it came in a dowry to whom he got married, if I'm correct with the name of the Acharya at that time. So the grandfather of the lady, the girl who got married, the grandfather was a great Shiva Bhakta. He was a great Shaivite. And in one evening or one night, Lord Shiva appeared to him in his dream. And he asked, I'm very pleased with your devotion and all that. Ask me for a blessing. He said, please give me your most dearmost thing. Please give me your dearmost thing. And Lord Shiva gave Vallabhji. And now the grandson to whom his granddaughter was getting married was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. That's how Vallabhji deity came to Harivanshrai. If I'm correct, Harivanshrai is the name. And that's how we had Radha Vallabhji temple. So Lord Shiva gave. So I guess there are many, many examples of it. Of course, if you say this example in the very first interaction, then say kuch bhi bolte ha. You have to have a time, place, circumstances, and be nice. I would say follow what Krishna says in 3rd chapter. Do not unnecessarily disturb the faith of the faithless people. Just engage them in Krishna's service. And they would be very happy because they don't see with much differentiation. For them, still everyone is same. So engage them in Lord Krishna's service. Let them get purified. All right? So with that, we'll pause here. It's 3:15. I have to really make a move. Thank you all. Very, very happy to see you in this new year. It looks like we are meeting our old family member after a long separation of close to 2 months, if I'm correct. Kartik month, we probably had class, maybe after Kartik when marathon started. So I'll just quickly see who all we have here. Okay, folks. Here, who is Zoom user? I don't know who's Zoom user here. All right, okay.
When will the results for the first unit test will be announced?
Result has come already, right? Mother Medhavni, I am really...
Only the closed book assessment has come, Prabhu. Open book is yet pending from BBRV.
Okay. So you can make this inquiry to Mother Medhavni, how we announce the results. She would tell. I'm literally not in the loop of, I mean, I'm in the loop, but I don't know how we announce the result. We can discuss. And we have to have our admins have to have a meeting. Maybe in the middle of the week, I'll give you some time.